Well, welcome to the podcast. We're back on a Tuesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. So, yeah, welcome to the Colonel and Kid podcast. For those of you that are watching this on the YouTube video, I'm not wearing headphones today. I'm just wearing my classic hunting cap. And more about this later, but I will just comment on looking at myself. The hat's a little bit misshapen because it's been kind of folded up in storage for a while. Found it in, in a container of stuff taken from my mom's basement when we moved her. And this was in a little tote and kind of got squashed a little bit. So it's a little misshapen and it's old. It's probably like 25 years, 30 years old. And I'm not going to take it off. I would take it off because it's kind of warm. But I'm afraid most of the insulation and some of the inner lining will fall out all around me and make a big mess. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to wear it the whole podcast. And for those of you watching, you'll be able to enjoy this camouflage cap. And the reason let me talk about that a little bit. And after I finish the introduction, because I just jumped in, I'm Greg Heitman, and this is the Colonel and the Kid podcast. And today we'll be reading chapter 11 of the memoir, The Colonel and the Kid, which is a memoir basically about the relationship between my grandfather and myself. Is my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And this is the whole basis for the podcast. And I will expand on that a little bit because I was doing something early this week to try to increase my skills for podcasting. I'm not sure if that's really something you technically have to do, but for you, the listener, I'm trying to improve myself. Remember the first one we talked about Kaizen? It's like, constant improvement over time. Trying to get 1% better each day, each day of your life. You just get a little bit better every day. So I'm just interested in podcasting right now. So I got this email from this podcasting service, I guess. I don't know. They were soliciting some stuff. I guess want me to pay for more money to be a better podcaster and generate more money and do whatever. But they had a little quiz. So I took this quiz, and one of the things that was on there was talking about why you're even doing a podcast. So really for me, the basis of this podcast is just to have an electronic record of the memoir itself. Wanted to preserve the memory of my grandfather and by association, the memory of me, I guess. So it's interesting to me to try to do all this stuff and invest in time and money and equipment to do this. And eventually, and most of all, I guess, try to have a good time doing it and get a laugh or two in between and just enjoy doing something that's I think preserving some history for others to see in the future, maybe future relatives of mine and my family. So that's why I'm doing this. So that I don't have a written statement, but that's my electronically recorded statement of why I'm even doing this podcast to begin with. I think the podcasting email that I got was basically people are trying to generate lots of revenue and get advertising and make money off this. I don't really need the money. I mean, money's nice, but I'm retired now. I get a pension. Well, technically I'm not retired. I will be retired in like 45 more days, but then my pension will kick in and I'll get plenty of money to survive on. And so I'm not really that worried about generating revenue like the other podcasters might be doing and try to influence the influencers that are out there. So I'm just in it for myself. That sounds very weird. It sounds selfish, but it's not. I'm in it for doing something for myself and for others to try to preserve some history, some family history. So there you go. There's the mission statement for this podcast, the Colonel and the Kid podcast on this Veterans Day. And Veterans Day is very important to me and my family. I have a brother that was in the military, retired military. My younger brother Garrett. I was in the military in I was in for 8 years, 8 years enlisted and or 4 years enlisted, 4 years commissioned officer over two branches of the military, the Army and the Air Force. It's National Guard service, but we all go through same basic training when you're in the Army. So did that. And my dad was in the Air National Guard. And of course, my grandpa, the colonel, he was a colonel in the U.S. Army, lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. Served in World War II, Korean War, and in the South Dakota National Guard, retired military. So Veterans Day is a big deal for me, and I hope for everyone else that you appreciate service that people, service and sacrifice veterans have provided for this country. And I won't go on and dwell on that, but it's, take a moment to reflect on that and thank your service members. And thanks, Garrett, for your service. Appreciate that. And hopefully you're having a good day off. So, because you're still working. Not me anymore, but anyway, happy Veterans Day, all you veterans out there. And thank you. Thank you all for your service. So anyway, back to the hat a little bit. I wanted to see it. This is, I love this hat. This is, they call this the Jones style cap or Jones hunting cap. And you can fold this part down and have like a bucket hat almost. But I always liked it like this because this is how I remember my dad having a hunting cap like this. And it's got ear flaps that you can fold down. I'm not going to remove it because I'm afraid of all the insulation will come down and make a big mess. And so I'll remove it outside in the garage or outside so all the insulation can fall off on the ground. But anyway, this is how I think of hunting caps for duck hunting and goose hunting when I was a little kid. The first image I was like imprinted on this that my dad had a hat like this, except these, for those of you watching again, these tans and browns here, those were grays and a gray color in the original Jones style hunting cap that I remember, but this is close enough. And I think I may go online and see if I can find a traditional one that I'm thinking of, the one that doesn't have all the insulation deterioration problems that I'm talking about here. And I feel sorry for those that aren't watching the video podcast today because this is a classic cap. And I guess it's becoming somewhat of a tradition that I wear hats and caps on my podcast. So look for more of that in the future. And then I don't have to wear the headphones unless I have a guest. But I kind of like wearing the headphones so I can hear myself and make sure the volume's working. But not today. I'm not going to do that because of the hat. So anyway, lots to talk about the hat. And I think it actually shows up in the reading today, chapter 11. And the reading of the actual memoir, it's I ventured off into some the 11 chapters 11 through 20 now, so I don't have a good clean copies of those that I can just call up from my computer. This is the problem from waiting too long between when you've written something and when you reviewed it and try to get it published. Time goes by and you can't find the files on your computer. You have no idea what's been edited, what was the most recent edits. It's a real pain in the behind to try to do all this stuff when you've taken such a long hiatus from working on it. And I know I can hear the violins you're playing in the background, feeling sorry for me, but I appreciate that. So we'll read the chapter and then we'll go on to other stuff because, like I said, I think that's the new format where I'm going to go ahead and people just want to hear the chapter. Then they can bail out and get on with the rest of their day. And then the diehards can stay on and we'll talk about my other topics, recurring subjects I like to address and my grievances that I have. And I can't help thinking about the Seinfeld episode of the Festivus and the airing of grievances. That seems like that's partially what this podcast has become, is my problems that I have, and then I just get a vent. This is, again, my memoir, and I talk about it in the memoir itself, and it's like the self psychoanalysis. And now this podcast has become more of my psychotherapy where I can just vent to myself. And as I look at myself again in the in the podcast viewfinder, and I can see myself, and maybe that provides some um relief from my anxiety that I have for all these problems that I seem to be running into. But anyway, later, let's go ahead and get to the chapter and get that, as I like to say, read into the record right off the bat. So, and then I can spare my voice too with my already, uh, how shall I put it, my less than stellar read aloud skills. Maybe they're getting better. I don't know. So I have been trying. Well, let's say practicing. I have been doing better when I read the chapter. I'm not reading it cold. I've read these things now for the first time all the way through. And now then I can read them again and kind of know some of the pauses, inflection points, whatever. So I think it's just a matter of refamiliarizing myself with my own material that I've written and have forgotten that I wrote. So I'll try to do a better job reading. I'll get more practice, and maybe I'll get better and better. And by the end of this, the whole memoir itself, I'll be like a professional. I'll be like a copy reader and doing ads for who knows what. So anyway, let's go to chapter 11, the pheasant hunting, part 1. This is a multi-part um, subject matter. So it's, and let me just, before I start, I'm just going to go on a little bit too. And to me, this is sort of a different, this is where it kind of kicks in a little bit more into just the firm memories that I have. Well, I call them firm. I'm going to put air quotes on firm memories, but just the things that maybe are more dramatic memories of my life. Maybe they weren't even that great at the time, but now that I think back afterwards and how they become so filled with color and detail in my mind, it seems weird that maybe I've misplaced the starting point for the memoir itself, and I should have started somewhere here and then flash back and forth into better chapters. But I sort of, I think maybe I talked about this. I started in sort of just the traditional timeline, start at the beginning, and then work your way through. But when we get into the hunting and the more of the sports and stuff, that really resonates with me. So some of the stuff when I'm reading this now, it seems like better writing to me, but maybe it's not better writing. Maybe it's just better subject matter that I really think about and have more detailed memories of. So anyway, we'll see. Well, you can make the judgment yourself and see how it goes when we get into more of the hunting stuff and some of the more sporting stuff coming up. But chapter 11, the pheasant hunting, part 1. So as usual, we start with a quote, and this is a quote I dug up, and it goes like this. Quote, "When you have shot one bird flying, you have shot all birds flying. They are all different, and they fly in different ways, but the sensation is the same, and the last one is as good as the first." End quote. And that is from Ernest Hemingway, from his short story, Winner Take Nothing. I think that's part of just a compilation of short stories that I have, a little book of. And I'm going to reserve the right to talk about this quote later on. Maybe when I have a guest, I wanted to pick their brain about this at some point. Hopefully, I'm not going to reveal any names of potential guests in the future, but this is a quote that I have mixed reactions of, I guess. And I was doing some research on it, and I'll save that discussion for later. But if anybody out that hunts out there, have you ever shot birds, doing wing shooting, birds flying by, not just sitting in a tree and picking them off of a branch or something like that. But actually, wing shooting, it's it is a sensation, I guess. It's a weird sensation when you start thinking about shooting at birds and hitting them and watching them fall, and just this. It is very different. And I think that the quote captures it pretty well overall. But I'm going to leave it there. We're going to get into the actual reading now, and here we go. The Pheasant Hunting Part 1. In South Dakota, pheasant hunting is a big deal. One of my earliest memories of hunting is as a little boy walking in the fields of corn, the plants towering over me, and seeing a rooster dart into my row, sprint ahead of me, and disappear into an adjoining row. I'm not sure I can relay the visuals that are etched into my memories as well as I would hope to. It's still surreal to recall this fall ritual seared into my young brain. It was awesome. It makes me think that there is a reason that they call a group out chasing pheasants a hunting party. Quote, hunting party. Grandpa and his crew out on the prowl in the fall in pursuit of roosters. Oh my goodness, that was definitely a hunting party. And I have a first vintage photo here. And I'll read the caption, then give a little description of the photo. Grandpa's hunting party getting ready for a fall pheasant hunt. I need some help identifying the individuals in this photo. The hunting vehicle isn't what you think of today, with pickups just as plentiful as passenger cars nowadays. And this photo is circa 1965. I'm not sure how close I am with that date, but it's got, there's a picture of 5 men, and most of them are dressed in brown canvas hunting clothes, hunting jackets and hunting pants, and a couple guys dressed in just blue jeans. And they're gathered around the trunk of a car getting, I guess, their gear on, and a couple guys got kind of reddish orange hats. And the old car, it looks, I don't know, it's probably like a 1960, 61. I'm going to say it's like a Dodge of some sort. I should have done some more research on that to try to give you a little better picture, but it's a weird gold color. And it's got like a white hard top. Windows seem really clean, if that means anything, but it's a nice fall day out on this dirt road, and there's one big tree close behind the car, and there's a shelter belt in the distance, blue sky with a few puffy clouds, small clouds in the blue sky there. And it looks like there's a grain bin straight behind him, and there's a cornfield, standing corn, and just looks like beautiful hunting cover for chasing pheasants out of and trying to get your limit of birds. So, and I guess I want to comment on the color of the picture too. It's, again, pretty sure my grandpa took this picture, and I give him so much credit because he must have taken lots of photos, and he must have been kind of that annoying guy say, okay, guys, I'm get some pictures here, but this is more of a candid picture. No one's posing. He just must have just snuck this picture. People aren't looking at the camera at all. Nobody's looking at it. And they're just getting their clothes on and getting ready to go. And again, the colors are again, I don't know, pretty fantastic for being taken from an old slide, 35 millimeter slide. And I use this little device and a little bit of software to take get these photos transferred from the slides to the memoir. And pretty cool in my mind anyway. So back to the chapter. Picture the bluest blue sky above you as you look through a narrow opening of claustrophobic corn row. You're part of a group of hunters. You don't have a gun, but you are assisting the effort, helping drive the pheasants to the end of the field where the blockers wait. The Chinese ringneck pheasants would rather run than fly, and they do run. They run down the rows in front of you, changing lanes in the corn. Pretty soon the birds are out of room. They have nowhere to go but up. They fly, and the hunters shoot explosions of wings as the birds lift off through the corn, only to be met with more fireworks as the shotguns blaze. The birds, especially the rooster pheasant, is a spectacular sight to see. The colors are an amazing compilation of browns, black bars on the long tail, purplish green iridescent head with a red patch around the eye. What a handsome bird. And those of you seeing the video, we'll be able to see this picture that I will add. And I'll read the caption here. The taxidermy pheasants that Grady and I gave my dad for a Christmas gift 30 plus years ago. I'm pretty sure we bought it in Watertown on one of our trips back and forth from Groton to Brookings when we were both in college at South Dakota State University in the late 1980s. This is a modern photo of the mounted hen and rooster. They are in great shape for being over 30 years old and on their third home in Santa Fe after stops in Texas and Iowa. And it's just a rooster pheasant and a hen pheasant mounted on a sawed piece of log, and there's a ear of corn glued to the log, fixed to their feet, right near their feet. And then I actually found this like antique barbed wire fence. It's like a piece of narrow ribbon fence, not like a woven or braided wire with little barbs. This is like a ribbon of barbed wire with the barbs part of the ribbon itself. They're not separate, and there's no multi-strand barbed wire. It's this old classic, probably from the 1950s, I guess. I think I found that when I was working, probably in 1993, working down on the reservation, I guess, down there in Fort Thompson, I guess. So I think I found it in the ditch. We were doing something. I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty cool photo taken in my backyard here in Santa Fe, but this taxidermy pair of pheasants has traveled all over the country. They've landed here now. Who says pheasants don't migrate? They migrated all the way from South Dakota to New Mexico. Anyway, back to the chapter. The memories flood my mind as I write this. It is frightening. I don't want to accidentally leave anything out, and my fingers can't type fast enough to keep up with the images in my head. Grandpa led the hunting party. People gathered at the house in Siston, and then we headed out to Richard Hanson's farm. Richard, husband of my grandma's sister. Joyce was Grandpa's brother-in-law and hunting partner. I don't know whose land we actually hunted back then. It was amazing to be part of the men's group and participate. To be included. It all seems like a tribal ritual looking back at it now. Maybe a preliminary initiation into the club. And I add parenthetically, I think I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. Grady was probably 9 or 10. And continuing, the little boys walking in line to try to drive the birds down the field helped a little bit, but it wasn't crucial to the operation. Grady and I were allowed to tag along and get a peek behind the curtain of men doing manly things. Nowadays, it might be looked at as child abuse by the liberal safe space society, but letting kids participate solidified confidence. I can still feel it. I was entrusted to be part of the group, the next generation. And then I have another photo added to the chapter here, and I'll read the caption and then describe it a little more. This is a photo of Richard Hanson, Grandpa's brother-in-law and hunting partner. What a classic photo, circa 1968. Cigarette in the corner of his mouth. Well, looks like a Browning A5 12-gauge shotgun, which is A5 is an automatic, so it's A5 auto. 12-gauge shotgun in one hand and a cock pheasant in the other. This is a classic memory of the way I recall my childhood. So this is like and I think I maybe used this phrase other places in the memoir about Richard. Yeah, the Marlboro man. He's got coveralls on, faded blue jean coveralls, bib coveralls he's wearing, and they're faded light blue, and then he's got a newer denim jacket. This is like a dark blue denim jacket that he's wearing, and he's got glasses in the brown, kind of just like maybe old style baseball cap, and then a plaid button up shirt. And he's got his glasses and just some work boots on, and he's standing it looks like a stubble field, edge of the road, and I'm sure it was my grandpa taking a picture of his hunting partner, brother-in-law. And I don't know, it's just classic. It's a classic photo, and check it out on YouTube if you want to see some of these classic photos. But back to the chapter. The hunting party had people I didn't know. People came from the big city to hunt with Grandpa, all the way from Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I remember there was whiskey and drinking at Grandpa's house after the hunt, and a good time was had by all. These words might frighten some of the readers. There was no mixing of alcohol and guns during the hunt that I could ever remember. That could have been a disaster. Yes, it was the 1970s, and the rules and laws were different then. Seatbelts weren't a big thing either yet. Now, putting on a seatbelt is such a habit that I can't even back the car out of the garage and leave it in the driveway without putting on my seatbelt for that 45-foot drive. In fact, one of the joys of pheasant hunting was climbing into the back of a pickup and bouncing across the field to be dropped off and walk back through the corn. Safety is all relative, just like everything in life. This isn't my memory, but my mom reluctantly shared one of the anecdotes she recalled from fall pheasant hunting gatherings as we talked about those fall hunting days long ago. As the story goes, Arden, one of Grandma's cousins from the Twin Cities, routinely provided spirits in which the group could imbibe after supper, a case of whiskey for the week of hunting. I'm not sure how many revelers enjoyed the whiskey, but I'm guessing there was some epic hangovers. As the story goes from my mom, sipping whiskey into the night, Grandpa and his pals argued about who was the faster runner. There was no way to settle the argument other than going out into the street in the middle of the night and having a foot race. I do not have details on winners, losers, or the injuries suffered, but I'm guessing there weren't any, quote, real winners from that challenge. And I make air quotes around real winners because I'm sure there was some compromised judgment at that point. I add parenthetically. Pheasant hunting was a special event. It was in the fall, and we had to travel from North Dakota to come hunt pheasants. My dad had to take leave from his job, as well as my mom taking a day or two away from teaching. This was a double whammy because us kids would miss some school also. I would contend, however, that there's nothing a classroom could provide that could remotely compare to the quality education we received while being with family and hunting. A big part of the warm feelings that go with my memories are the hunting clothes. The outfits were very rudimentary back in those days. Brown canvas coats and pants, along with a shell vest that included a game bag made of nylon on the back for stuffing the harvested pheasant into. It was perfect. I love the Jones-style hunting caps, and I tip my cap right now for those of you watching. And I look to add one to my nostalgia collection as I type this, because the one I'm wearing is worn out and it's kind of disgusting with all the failing insulation inside when I take it off. I need one with ear flaps for my cold, sensitive ears. The funny thing today is that I believe I've recently witnessed a hunter wearing protective eyewear that probably costs more than all the money combined on clothes in those days by the party of hunters. The fashion of hunting garments today cannot be underestimated as an economic force. And I add parenthetically that I look at the Duck Dynasty family and all the camouflage they were wearing, 10 plus years ago now. That was a popular TV show. And those guys with their beards and kind of making hunting a little more mainstream, I think, at that time. Where it kind of had maybe lost some steam and lost some favorability in the eyes of a lot of people. But kudos to the Duck Dynasty family there. Kind of maybe shining a positive light on hunting. But anyway, back to the chapter. The good old days. I've documented my memories of Siston's old holiday gas station previously in my fictional mysteries I've published about Charlie LeBeau, a Bureau of Indian Affairs police sergeant working on the Siston-Wahpeton Indian Reservation. Talk about an impact on a youngster's life. And I hold up the book for those that are able to see. Long Hollow, a Charlie LeBeau mystery. But back to the chapter. Talk about an impact on a youngster's life. The holiday station had it all. These images have been stuck in my head for nearly 50 years, and now I put them on the page for everyone to read. It is a blessing and a curse. A blessing that I can try to share the experience, but a curse that can never be repeated. And even if attempted, it would fall short of how it's perfectly remembered in my head. Believe me, I've scanned eBay for many hours, perusing items from this period in my childhood. You can fill up with gasoline, get yourself a holiday brand box of shotgun shells for the road, Those Holiday brand shotgun shells came in the best box. They had pheasants and ducks right on the box. Plus, the plastic hull of the shell was bright baby blue for the 12-gauge shotgun. As I found out later in life, Les Kuba, a pretty famous and fabulous artist, designed the art for the Holiday shotgun shell boxes. Les Kuba grew up in nearby Minnesota and knew the real-life experiences of those scenes on the boxes. More on Les Kuba in the future. I have many nostalgic associations I'd like to share, but we have to keep things moving along. And I have another photo that I inserted here, and this will be available in the video podcast on YouTube. And it's a box of Holiday duck and pheasant loads for 12 gauge. And these were number 4 shot lead shotgun shells. And then the picture, it says Holiday. It's the Holiday logo, and it's got a rooster and a hen pheasant flying right in the box, and got the warning in there. Warning, keep out of reach of children. So, and the caption reads, photo of Les Kuba's Holiday shotgun shell box design. This is a shell box I purchased off eBay. The design is circa 1970, but I believe the box is new. So I'm not sure how these boxes, they came flat. So I think maybe they're just packaging that maybe never got used. They're just in some warehouse someplace. And so that somebody had got a hold of them and sold them on eBay. Possibly they got the design and maybe printed some more themselves and were selling them as nostalgic items. And so I bought one. I don't know how many I bought. Maybe I bought some other ones. I have them someplace in my stuff. I moved back, but this one is it's got the pheasant and on one side and the duck on the other. I think I only have the photo of the pheasant side on this one, but I'll tell you, it brings me right back to that place, that Holiday gas station there in Siston. But I have another photo here, and this is I'll read the caption and then describe a little more here. This is a photo that I just snapped of another example of Les Kuba's artwork. I own this artist's proof of North Dakota resident small game and habitat stamp from 1985. It is on display in the master bath on a rotation of similarly sized prints. I particularly connect with this image because it reminds me of Rock Lake, North Dakota. This was the area that my dad first took me hunting as a child. It represents nothing but unsullied memories of childhood. And it's a picture of bluebill ducks, kind of small diver ducks, and they're flying into the wind over a wind-blowing slough, a little pond with reeds and rushes and blowing in the wind. And in the background, there's a grain elevator, well, 2 grain elevators and a water tower against this washed out blue sky. And it just, for some reason, that just makes me think of Rock Lake, North Dakota, small town of small towns. When I was a little kid, we lived in Belcourt, North Dakota, and then Rolla, North Dakota. And Dad would take Grady and I out with him sometimes in the evening to go see if we could get some ducks. And these ducks, the bluebill duck they're a very stocky looking duck. They have a blue bill, hence the name. And the drake's kind of got this iridescent greenish, purplish blue head with a nice gold eye. And then the hen's got just a brown, mostly brown mottled coloring. And then as the bluebill comes into her face, it's got a white line around the bill there, and really identifying her as a female, a hen duck. And they kind of have the bluish gray feet. And here in the represented in this image on this print, the feet are kind of out, kind of getting ready to maybe land on the water, and really, really cool photo, or cool image that I have a photograph of. And then if you notice the Les Kuba signature, he's got this really fancy script signature with the K, kind of part of the K coming and spinning all the way around, and he has a little kind of silhouette of a duck flying at the end of it. And it's a really admirable signature. Wish my signature was cool as that, but I think my logo is as cool as his signature, but my signature is not as cool as his by any means. Anyway, back to the chapter. It was an amazing time to be a kid and be open to all experiences. In my self-psychoanalysis, I imagine if I had been older or younger, these memories wouldn't have stuck with me the way they did, shaping me, molding me into the person I am today, for better or for worse. The luck of the draw put me in a family that made hunting a priority. The influence of my grandpa on my life as a hunter couldn't be bigger. Today, it seems that hunting is almost a fringe activity, and that it is shamed by many anti-this or that organizations. I hope we don't lose hunting as America evolves. The lessons of hunting run deep in the history of this country. I was lucky enough to have Grandpa as an outdoorsman instructor. Hunting is mostly wandering outdoors, and just being able to enjoy nature is 99% of the effort. The other 1%, harvesting something, is just a bonus. Stay tuned for more chapters in this realm. And here I go back to some photos, some vintage photos, and I'll read the caption and describe. And you can check these out again on the YouTube video podcast, where I hope to be able to upload them and share them. And I labeled this photo "The Good Old Days Are Something to Behold." I put the date on this photo as circa 1956. Grandpa's cousins-in-law from the Twin Cities filling game straps chock full of pheasants. Aldi and Arden hold up roosters for the camera with Grandpa behind the lens. And so it's like, I don't know how many pheasants they're holding up each. I don't know if that was the limit for those three guys, because I think my grandpa taking the picture and then Arden and Aldi as hunters. It looks like there's probably at least, I don't know, 20 pheasants, 21 maybe. Maybe there's 7 roosters each. And then there's a dog, like looks like I don't know, maybe it's a chocolate lab, maybe it's a German short hair or something, but it's on its back rolling around in the front of the picture. And it's classic to me, this photo. And I guess I'm not sure exactly what where this was. I think the next photo, I think I claimed it was probably taken in Summit, South Dakota, at Richard Hanson's house, at my grandpa's brother-in-law. But I'll read the other caption. The other caption is, Grandpa gets a moment in front of the camera with a daily limit of pheasants. I really love the basketball hoop in the background. This photo paired with the photo above are estimated to be from 1956. It looks like a nice October day, with the grass in the yard still showing a little tinge of green. These photos are likely taken in Summit, South Dakota. And so it looks like, Grandpa with it looks like he's got like a heavy duty coat on and his brown canvas pants, brown hat. And he's standing in front of a yard, and it looks like there's a hoop just and backboard on the tree, hung from a tree. And it's not as crisp a photo as I'd like to see, but it still holds some colors. And for being that old, it's just amazing to me. Like 70 years old photos that came from slides, and the slides held up this long that I was able to actually get images of them. Just kind of makes me mesmerized with the technology, even from back then till today. And then I have another photo here, and I'll read the caption and give a little description. A couple more pheasant hunting photos from the days of yore. This photo, circa 1954, shows Kathy Hagen, my mom's younger sister, holding a harvested cock pheasant on her lap in the living room, wearing her dad's, my grandpa's, hunting cap. More amazing than Grandma allowing hunting photos in the living room is getting the kids involved in the pictures. It makes me smile to see such a photo. You might see some similar photos involving kids and pheasants in later chapters, but I assure you, they are not taken inside the house. And so this photo of Kathy, I think she's probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6, but probably younger, maybe like 4. I'm going to say 4. And she's sitting on a chair in the living room, and there's a stand next to the chair, and there's all these magazines on the second row of it and some other decoration on top. But she's holding a, a pheasant with a really long tail, and she's smiling, looking at the camera, wearing Grandpa's hunting cap. It's like a Jones style cap, not camouflage, but just tan with the brim kind of up in the back and then the visor in the front like that, like I'm wearing right now. And it's a nice living room chair, and she's sitting there with the pheasant on her lap. This makes me laugh. And then there's another photo. Then I'll read the caption and then describe that too. Pulling back a little farther, you can see the bounty from An Excellent Day Afield. Kathy again wearing her dad's hunting cap, bird in hand and a lot more on the floor, circa 1954. I thought this might be from the same day as the top photo, but Kathy is wearing different colored pants in the bottom photo. Still, I can't imagine my grandma was thrilled with ducks, geese, and pheasants laid out in the living room floor. And so there's this photo. It must be, she looks like she's, I don't know. It's got to be like the same time frame. Maybe my guess at first maybe was that she got blood on her pants, so she changed pants, and then they took more photos, and it looks like there's probably like 4 or 5 mallards on the floor and a couple Canada geese, and then she's got one pheasant on the armrest of the chair, and then I don't know, 2 strings of cock pheasants hanging from the chair itself. It's just like, it's hilarious to me that was these photos were taken, probably much to the chagrin of my grandma, who probably didn't know the photos were being taken. She's probably out of the house, and then later she sees these photos like, what are you doing? So anyway, that's it. That's the close out of the chapter. And of course, when we close out the chapter, we end with a quote. So the quote for this chapter is, quote, "Not all those who wander are lost," end quote. And that is J.R.R. Tolkien from The Fellowship of the Ring. And I thought that was a good quote because that's to me, like I think I mentioned in the chapter about hunting, a lot of times you're just wandering around outside in nature and just get to enjoy being outside and enjoying the fresh air. And if you get to harvest something, all the better. So anyway, very, very nostalgic chapter as we get into these more, I mean, for me, the heart of the memoir and how I remember Grandpa, and I guess some of my regret that I didn't get more stories from him and ask more questions, and just be a better steward of the history that was there for the recording and being able to share. So next time. So anyway, that was a good chapter. So those are going to bail out now. If you just want to hear the chapter, feel free, because we're going to go on to some of the usual stuff and some of the new maybe some newer stuff. But on to the NFL update. So here we are, Tuesday. The games are done. We're going to start week 11 on Thursday night, but let's review week 10 and look at the record. Look at my picking record and look at how the games turned out. Week 10, I was 9-5 on the week. Not too good, not too bad. I'm saying hanging in there, trying to get back to my 70% pick rate, which seems like a very fantastical idea, which we'll never achieve, but you strive for it. You keep striving, strive for excellence. So for those of you not watching, I had to get a drink of water. I'm starting to lose my voice, it seems like already. 44 minutes in. We'll keep plugging away, though, because we got to get through the NFL update at least. So anyway, start off good. Well, I started off the victory. It wasn't a good game on last Thursday. evening. Raiders at Broncos. Broncos won, but it was terrible defensive struggle. And then the Colts won, Bears won. So I started off 3-0 to start the week. And then it became a very, with the doldrums, let's say, because Bills heavily favored over the Dolphins in Miami. The Dolphins pulled off the upset, and then we had my beloved Vikings. I had picked the Ravens, and they beat the Vikings in a terrible game. Just total incompetence on both parts. I mean, the Ravens have a seasoned quarterback with Lamar Jackson, and I think it really showed with the J.J. McCarthy at quarterback for the Vikings. Just not enough experience, just terrible. I think they had 8 false start penalties. Just embarrassing. Just an embarrassing performance all around by the Vikings. But I predicted that. And then I went with the idea that the Browns would beat the Jets because the Jets traded a bunch of their starters, at the trade deadline, and got that one wrong. I don't think I was clear on the podcast last time that I was picking the Browns, but I did it in picking the Browns, and they lost. Picked the Buccaneers at home to beat the Patriots, and Buccaneers had a good chance of winning that game, and they just couldn't get over the hump. They got some injuries at wide receiver that I think are really, really kind of hampering them right now. And Patriots are a lot better team than I think most people pictured, and they're doing pretty good. The Saints at Panthers, this was a total debacle. I mean, you just can't pick the Panthers to win. You're better off, I think, just picking them to lose every game. And the Saints are one of the worst. They're probably a team in the bottom 5 of the league, but they ended up beating the Panthers in Carolina, which is that's just pathetic. And of course, I'd picked the Texans, and then I said if C.J. Stroud is out with concussion, I'm going to go up with the Jaguars. So I did pick the Jaguars. Jaguars are winning that game. They're up by like 20-some points. Blew it, lost to the Texans, and I should have never changed my mind with that, but that's the way it goes. So I lost like, what is it? 5 of 6 games there in that little stretch of the games, and then I ended up winning the rest. Seahawks won, Rams won, Lions won, Chargers won, and Eagles beat the Packers last night in a snooze fest. So, and the week 9-5, not bad. I'm not going to complain too much. Again, please don't gamble. I don't recommend gambling for anybody. Maybe buy a Powerball ticket here and there just to amuse yourself, but please don't do any illegal gambling, and limit yourself on any legal gambling, including lottery tickets. It's not worth it. There's more problems with gambling coming up. Some Major League Baseball players got scooped up in basically conspiracy with I guess that there's some gambling going on, and they can bet on every pitch. And these guys were relievers for the Cleveland Indians, also known as the Cleveland Guardians, but they were basically bribed by some gamblers to throw like a ball on their first pitch when they came into the game in relief. And even with the speed, it's like, oh, there's going to be a ball at less than 95 miles an hour. So they were teaming up with some gamblers to take money from people, unsuspecting people that were gambling. And I think some of the bets were like for $10,000 or $40,000. And these guys were getting bribed, who knows how much, but they're making like millions of dollars as Major League Baseball players. And yet they're trying to pick up a few $1,000s on the side for gambling. It's mind boggling how people are corrupted into doing things that are illegal and immoral. And I guess who knows what's involved. Maybe they got some trapped up in some extortion plan, or who knows. I won't even speculate, but don't gamble. Just please. I just tell people don't gamble. You can make picks for fun like I'm doing, and then check yourself and check your results. and compete with yourself on these picks and see how you're doing and how your analysis is going, and just enjoy that. I mean, it takes you have to be one of a, probably one in every 25 million people can be possibly make a living gambling, I would say. And more than likely you're not that person. So please don't gamble. Okay. Enough. We'll get off that little soapbox, but let's move on. Let's move on to week 11. Yeah, I will mention the buys from last week. So Bengals, Cowboys, Chiefs, and Titans all had buys last week, so they're going to be playing this week. And the buys for this week, Colts and Saints are off. So we got 15 games, only 2 teams on bye. So, all right, Thursday night football, we have Jets at Patriots, and this is a no-brainer. Patriots should be easy win on that. Second game, Redskins at Dolphins in Spain. I think this is the first game in Spain. First regular season game in Spain. There may have been some preseason games in Spain. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know why they're doing this. It's to me, it's diluting the actual competition. And again, I will say that the NFL is not about competition anymore. It's about money. So how do you conduct yourself in business? You try to make more money. So that's what they're doing, and it bleeds into the actual dilution, not delusion, dilution. I mean, they're watering it down of the actual competition of football, and it kind of makes me sad. And eventually, I don't know. I can picture myself not caring at all about the NFL. In a few more years, where it's just become just a joke. So there we are. They have Redskins at Dolphins, and the Redskins have so many injuries and they're so old as a team that I'm just gonna abandon them for winning a game for the rest of the year. I think the Dolphins will win this game, and the Dolphins aren't good, yet they beat the Bills. And I don't know how the Bills. I think the Bills have high hopes. Maybe they'll be able to get things fixed. I think the Bills defense has a lot of injuries, and they need some miracles to occur if they're going to make a run, peak at the right time, and actually compete for Super Bowl. I think they were a big favorite at the beginning of the year, but I don't like their chances at the Super Bowl this year. So I think game number 3, Panthers at Falcons. Falcons had a tough loss in Germany last weekend against the Colts. That went into overtime. So the Falcons are actually not looking too bad. Their record maybe doesn't reflect as much as the chance that they've had to win games, and they've blown games and choked a little bit. They did beat the Bills earlier this year, so they obviously have some talent. But the Buccaneers lost to the Patriots, and now the Buccaneers have to travel up to Buffalo to play the Bills. And this is a turning point game, I think, for both teams. I'm picking the Bills at home only because they're at home, and I think Josh Allen, who had a big fumble, and James Cook had a big fumble against the Dolphins last week. I think they're going to be really pressing to try to win this game and get back on track, get some of the momentum back, and just to psychologically get back on track. So I'm looking at the Bills winning that game. Texans at Titans, even with the backup quarterback. Maybe C.J. Stroud will be back, but I think the Titans are the worst team in the league, even after coming off a bye. I think the Texans will beat them at home. I wouldn't, again, please don't bet any money on my picks, but I've never bet on this game. This is a game that they should probably have a blackout so to only show it locally, because it's probably going to be terrible football because both teams are terrible. And I'm sorry you even have to talk about them. Which leads us into another game. I'm just going to call it a game because I'm not going to say any descriptors about it, because it's the Bears at the Vikings. And of course, I'm a Vikings fan. fortunately or unfortunately. So I'm picking the Vikings just with my heart here. Vikings beat them earlier this year, and people talk about all these conference games where they play at home and a home and home series where the Vikings beat the Bears opening night, Monday night game. Somehow a miracle occurred. And the Bears have, I don't know what the Bears are, above 500 now, and the Vikings are below 500, but I think the Bears are just, I think their defense is very bad and their offense is better, but again, I'm picking the Vikings because they're my team and I have a weakness for them. So good luck, Vikings fans. Good luck, Greg. Hopefully you can get a victory and feel good for the rest of the day on Sunday. Packers at Giants. Packers are terrible. I don't know how they've won any games all year. They look like they are just lost. I mean, I'm watching that game last night on Monday against the Eagles. The Eagles look terrible. I guess it was kind of cold. The wind was kind of blowing. It was maybe in 30 degrees on whatever it was. Wind chill maybe in the teens or 20s, but I don't know. These are supposedly professional football teams. And they look like they had looked like their first practice of the year in my mind. I'm picking the Packers to beat the Giants because the Giants are so banged up and their rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart, he got a concussion last week. And their Giants were playing the Bears and at the Bears, and after Jackson Dart got a concussion, they were Jackson Dart left when they were ahead, and he left and they just folded, and the Bears ended up coming back and beating the Giants. So without Jackson Dart, I think the Packers should be able to handle the Giants they have to go to New York to play the Giants. So I don't know. If the Packers lose this game, I think they can just fold their tent and write off the rest of the season. So good luck. Bengals at Steelers. The Bengals defense is so terrible that I'm just going to pick the Steelers because I think the Steelers can outscore them no matter what. Let's predict this game to be a 35-30 Steelers. Chargers at Jaguars. Jaguars they have, I don't know, probably no business being in the league. They are a terrible team, terrible organization. They've had such crazy things happen to them, from guy that was in executive office there gambling so much money away and then embezzling so much money, millions of dollars from the organization. That's just unreal to even think about. And I think that permeates the whole organization, just this, stench of just worthlessness throughout. I feel sorry for him. I kind of feel sorry for Jacksonville Jaguars because they're considered second class citizens in the state. I mean, they have Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Miami Dolphins and Jacksonville Jaguars all in Florida. And the Jaguars in Jacksonville are like the ugly stepchild. And it's, they don't deserve to have such a bad organization representing them, but they do. So, oh well. So we're not picking the Jags. We're picking the Chargers, even though Chargers have to go across country. Played a tough game against the Steelers last week. I could see Jaguars bouncing back, and they're so up and down. They beat the Chiefs. Jaguars beat the Chiefs earlier this year, right? Well, Chargers beat the Chiefs too. So we'll see. Again, please don't bet on these games, especially based on my picks. Seahawks at Rams. This is going to be a good game. I really do. I really think this can be a good game. And maybe when I say that, maybe it's more of an indicator. It'll be indicative of who's actually good in the NFC. Because the Seahawks have to travel to LA Rams, and Seahawks and Rams have the same record. I think they're both 7-3, if that's right. And they both had good quarterback with Sam Darnold for Seahawks, and what's his name? Quarterback for the Rams, Matthew. Anyway, quarterback. So I'm picking the Rams. 49ers at Cardinals. 49ers are so banged up. You have to go to the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are so terrible. Cardinals played up in Seattle and were down, I think 35-0 with 10 minutes left in the second quarter, I believe it was, which is just unbelievable for a pro football team to be blown out that bad. So I give Cardinals no chance to win a game the rest of the year. That'd be that's sort of my assumption and kind of I guess prediction for them. Cardinals put their star, quote unquote star quarterback Kyler Murray on injured reserve, and Matthew Stafford, it's the quarterback I couldn't think of for the Rams, former Lion. I don't know. That's why I can't think of him, because I think of him as a Detroit Lion, the no-name Lions, and they traded him and he won a Super Bowl. So anyway, the Cardinals are terrible. I wish they were good, because they're kind of a local team for me. In Arizona Cardinals and the Denver Broncos, kind of my locally the teams I guess I see a lot of and hear a lot of, and Dallas Cowboys too, which I don't really care for at all. So I kind of lean the other way. Broncos, AFC, and Cardinals. NFC is my other, quote unquote, my other teams besides the Vikings, but I'm picking 49ers at Cardinals. Maybe Brock Purdy will be back. If not, Mac Jones is looking like a game manager as a quarterback. I could see him actually reviving his career totally, completely turning it around for maybe some success in his future. So Ravens at Browns. Ravens should dominate this game. I cannot picture a scenario where the Browns will be within double digits. I mean, single digits. They might win by 20. I would say 20. The Browns supposedly have a great defense, but I think they're getting worn out because their offense is so bad. They've had to take so many more snaps on the defensive side of the field. I think it's an impossible task for the Browns. Oh, unlucky 13. 13th game of the week. Chiefs at Broncos. So I'm picking the Chiefs. I have no confidence in this game. And this is my weekly rant against the Broncos and Sean Payton, the coach of the Broncos. And let me just say this. I'm gonna take it all back. I'll apologize to Sean Payton for all the stuff I said, and maybe anything that maybe considered libel, slanderous, whatever I've said or written about him. I completely apologize and take it all back. He's a human being. Human beings make mistakes, and I need to forgive him of those mistakes to be another good human being. And I guess the NFL has seen fit to give him a second chance in life, and we all deserve a second chance, whatever mistakes we make. And I guess I should end it there, but I will say that if he was on drugs, that those drugs can do a lot of stuff to you that you would never wish on your enemy. And I hope if he was addicted to those drugs, I hope he stays clean for the rest of his life and is clean now. And I apologize for all what things I've said about Sean Payton, and maybe someday he'll come on my podcast and we can talk about this and talk about being, reformed and getting your second chance at life and doing things better. So I throw that out there for Sean. And again, I personally apologize to you, Sean, for anything I said that was maybe out of line and hurtful. And we'll go from there. Start over, start fresh. And obviously, you're a good enough coach to win a Super Bowl in the NFL, whether that was commercially tainted by the NFL Incorporated. I will refrain from discussing that further, but You won a championship. They didn't take it away from you, so you are a Super Bowl winner. You have a Super Bowl ring. Good for you. And I look forward to the chance to meet you, Sean Payton, someday and have this discussion about life and how we can be better and do better. Again, Kaizen, constant improvement throughout life. And I think maybe I see that. I see that as far as Sean Payton maybe is reformed and doing better. And I will say that it has been highly entertaining with his feud with Russell Wilson, his former quarterback in Denver, that he just basically cut loose and had to pay, I don't know how many millions of dollars, $60 million to Russell Wilson for doing nothing except being terrible. And Russell Wilson has outlived his career as an NFL player and quarterback. But there was the feud going on between those two guys. It was on the internet, some posts going back and forth. And I think Russell Wilson had said something about bounties on people because Sean Payton had, I guess, some pointed comments about Russell Wilson's current career and that he had cut him for a reason and all this stuff. And then Russell Wilson replied back to that, saying, "Oh, I didn't know there's still bounties out there. You're still out there putting bounties on people," which is very humorous to me. So good for them for drumming up PR for for the NFL free of charge. 14th game, Monday or Sunday night game. I mean, on paper, this looks good. Lions at Eagles. Lions bounced back against the Redskins last week and just trounced the Redskins. So I'm still going to pick the Eagles. I think the Eagles are just able to do enough each week to win. It is ugly. They're playing such ugly football, but they just do enough. And watching the football game last night, they do these quarterback sneaks that are just been unbelievably terrible officiated wise. They were doing the first two quarterback sneaks. There was false starts by each team. I think one by Philadelphia and one by Green Bay, and they should have been called penalties. Neither one was called a penalty on. It's just unbelievable. And the announcers are just beside themselves talking about this as they were announcing the football games, thinking, what is going on with this? These are obviously penalties, but they're not blowing the whistle and throwing the flag. So I don't know. Officials, please, you need to do better, or just retire and get out of the way for a new crop of officials to get in there and perform. And finally, the game that absolutely no one cares about other than looking at those awesome uniforms and logos they have. Cowboys at Raiders. What a game. I mean, if you talk about me 30 or 40 years ago, this would have been just awesome. Awesome matchup. But now two of the worst teams in the league, bottom 10 at least. Raiders might be at the bottom 5. Cowboys definitely, maybe just bottom 10 for sure. I'm picking the Cowboys. And maybe, I think I said previously, I'm picking the Eagles too. So, looking for a good week. Trying to get up to, crawl my way back to 70% picks. That's the goal. You've heard me say it. That's what we're shooting for. And to refresh your memories, Colts and Saints are off. They have the bye week this week. So that's the NFL update. And, we're an hour in, and I was thinking about calling it a podcast, but I just, I'm going to go back to Long Hollow a little bit. I wanted to mention some stuff, Long Hollow, again, the book, because it came up in the reading of the chapter today for the Colonel and the Kid memoir. I mentioned that Long Hollow is based on the area of Siston, South Dakota, where my grandpa and grandma lived, and I'd go visit them. That's where the pheasant hunting was done back in those in the 70s, the mid 70s, late 70s, and what a time. And I reference the holiday gas station and stuff in the book itself. But I've been remiss in talking about some of the musical updates. So I wanted to talk about the Long Hollow book and screenplay where that I wrote in all my books and all the books about in the Charlie LeBeau series. I have soundtracks that I create and I include the music in the book. I reference the song like it's something the song played on the radio is in the background, and or they walk into the restaurant and the music being played on the jukebox, whatever. So I made these soundtracks, and put enough songs in there so I can fill up a whole disc, and then I burn that disc, and then I have it, keep it in my vehicle or whatever. So I'm going to listen to the soundtrack of Long Hollow or whatever book I've written, Buffalo Lake. What was it to do with the Buffalo Lake book? That I want to talk about that one in the future. I'm looking for the poster of Buffalo Lake, because I have, if you can see this, if you're watching the video podcast, I'm pointing to the Long Hollow poster. And previously, I held up the Long Hollow book itself. And Buffalo Lake is the second book in this series, but I can't find the poster, so I want to put that poster up, hanging up behind me. And for some reason, it's lost in the move, or maybe it's completely lost because I thought I looked at all the packages I have of possible posters that might be wrapped up. Can't seem to find it. But anyway, so on the soundtrack for Long Hollow, I just wanted to go through that and talk about some of the songs and some of the information and a couple things that came to mind. And so the first song on the soundtrack for Long Hollow is Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. And what I was doing prior to coming on to broadcast this was I was looking up the dates of these songs when they were first released, and Seven Nation Army was released in 2003. And that's if you know the song, I'm not going to try to imitate it or reference it too much because of copyright stuff. But I'll talk about it, and that's sort of the intro song to this. It's sort of the mood, setting the mood and the tone of the book of Long Hollow, where it's really a driving beat, and it's a really fascinating song to me, that and enjoyable, and it's got kind of a cool history too, because from what I understand is that Jack White of the White Stripes, he wrote the song trying to the thinking behind it was he wanted it to be in the James Bond series, James Bond theme, the 007 movies, and was hoping he could get that somehow used in a James Bond film, but then it wasn't coming to fruition. So then he just released it on its own, and it's become this huge anthem of like marching bands for football play it as sort of this inspirational pump up the crowd type song from the marching band. It's everywhere. It's a really cool song, and to me it sets the whole tone of the story of Long Hollow. And I have this dichotomy that I go back and forth with in the Long Hollow soundtrack, where I go, the second song it's mentioned in the book, it's Deeper Than the Holler by Randy Travis. And that song's from 1988, released in 1988. Big hit for Randy Travis. And just a real good song. I'm just a real good country song, good country sounding song from the 80s, transitioning from that real country and western sound of the earlier 60s and 70s, kind of bridging the gap into the more modern country. And then, then I immediately go back on the soundtrack to Mr. Brightside by the Killers. And again, that's from 2003. So you think about 2003 already with Seven Nation Army and Mr. Brightside, because the Killers, and I remember that this came up in 2023 where they were talking about the 20th anniversary of Mr. Brightside, because it's a song about, it was like an anthem for a generation of young people that were big fans of the song, and 20 years later, it was still this big hit that that generation grew up with and still stuck with. And it's sort of about, I guess, My understanding is it was written by a guy that he discovered his girlfriend was cheating on him, and it's the paranoia of it, and just trying to stay, you know, convince himself that it wasn't happening. So he was Mr. Brightside about it. I don't know if I understand that correctly. But at the same time, whenever I hear this song, it's by the group, it's the band The Killers. And for some reason, this jumps to my mind that they had a Christmas song way back when. In 2014, I was looking this up. In 2014, they had a Christmas song called Joel the Lump of Coal. And this is, 11 years ago when Jimmy Kimmel was actually funny. And I remember watching Jimmy Kimmel with my dad back in South Dakota. I guess I was up there probably for hunting, deer hunting, and just was staying with my mom and dad for a couple nights, whatever it was. And I'm watching the Jimmy Kimmel show where they had like this little behind the scenes where the Jimmy Kimmel was helping write this song with with the Killers, a Christmas song, because they had Killers had a tradition of releasing a new Christmas song each year. So Jimmy Kimmel was helping write the song, and this, if you just want to look it up, it's Joel the Lump of Coal. It's it's funny. It's funny to me, and it just shows to me how something happened to Jimmy Kimmel because he was actually funny, and then he just got some, brain damaged, I guess. I don't know what it is. He's not even funny anymore. He's just so political and just unwatchable, and this re- it's like repellent, TV repellent. You just put him on the screen, it's like you just are repelled by him. So it makes me feel kind of weird and sad that that happened to Jimmy Kimmel because he had a history of being actually funny until I guess Donald Trump took over as president and it ruined him. So anyway, that's enough about that. But check it out, and I don't know if I can put links in the actual notes. I don't know if I can do that. I think the transcripts show up so you can read the references, and Google the videos and stuff if you want to see these. They're usually the videos are pretty good about this, and you can hear these songs and watch the videos on YouTube. That's what I'd recommend doing. I don't think I can put the links in. Maybe I can, but I don't. That might take too long to do, and I want to get this published. So anyway, then the next song that appears in the soundtrack is "Chicken Fried" by Zach Brown Band in 2008. So I think that was probably popular. I'm gonna look and see when this copyright was. So this copyright was 2011. I probably wrote it in 2010 and got everything ready to go in 2011. So Chicken Fried was probably a couple years old, but still probably popular to me because I'm behind the times with my music. And good song. I really enjoy that song still. All these songs I still enjoy, and that's why I put them in the soundtrack because I like to hear them. And then another country song, "Want To" by Sugarland. That was from 2006. Enjoyed Sugarland for their they had a couple of good songs there. And then the next song that shows up in the soundtrack is "Last Night" by The Strokes, and that's from 2001. So that was, it can be a like pretty good variety of time frame for the soundtrack. And that's a driving beat for that song, little pop rock song. And then immediately go back to country, "Some Fools Never Learn" by Steve Wariner, 1985, that song. And that's just, it doesn't seem like 40 years ago, but wow, 2025, 1985, crazy. And then another driving pop rock song, "All Over You" by Spill Canvas from 2007. And today I found out when I was looking up the date for that song, and I was just blown away that Spill Canvas is a band from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I never knew that until today. 18 years later, I learned that a song I really liked was by a band from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and that's my connection. I write about South Dakota. I consider myself South Dakotan, transplanted here to New Mexico, but it's like, how did I not know that they were from Sioux Falls, South Dakota? That's just crazy to me. So anyway, that's good. Like I said, good driving beat for the pop rock genre. Um, then I jump right back to country music with the song "If I Die Young" by the band Perry from 2010. So that was right in the heart of that. That song was peaking at the right at the heart of the time I was writing this book. So that's a good song, really catchy and um, interesting song, very enjoyable. And then go all the way back, another country song, "Young Love" by Sonny James from 1956, and that's a good song. There's been multiple covers of that song, and there was one kind of like a pop country song by I think by a band by Twister Alley, probably about 15, 20 years ago. That was pretty good. I mean, the song's so good. I mean, it stands alone as just a hit from basically anybody could record it. It'd probably be a hit. And then from there, it goes more driving pop rock song, "Impossible" by Anne Berlin. This one hit wonder band that it kind of reminded me of um, "Take on Me" by Aha from the 80s. But that "Impossible" by Anne Berlin was from 2010, so right in the heart of the time frame. I was writing this book. "Rise Above This," that's a rock song. That's definitely rock by Seether from 2008. And then another pop rock song, "Animal" by Neon Trees from 2010. Again, right in the heart of the time. And then for me, get a drink of water here. I guess to me, one of the things that I get it's like an indicator, like a dashboard for me how I felt about this book, The Long Hollow Book and the soundtrack, is that I put pretty much my favorite song of all time. I incorporated that into the middle of the soundtrack, which is "Trouble" by Lindsey Buckingham. And this was, released in 1981. And I've talked about Lindsey Buckingham, and this happens to be my favorite song of all time. It's probably little known by a lot of people, but I put that basically in the middle of the soundtrack. And I guess it's sort of as a feeling for me that this was an important work that I had written and liked, and will always like, and feel like it has some meaning to me by tying it into one of my, my one of my, if not my favorite song of all time. So put that in there. And then on the soundtrack, continuing, "Return to Innocence" by Enigma, 1993. So this song is kind of a weird song that it's like I think it's a German band, but 1993. It's got this weird kind of cadence to it. And maybe some other time I'll expand on that about I put that, how and why I put that in there. But, "Return to Innocence" by Enigma. Check it out if you want to, you know, just hear something different. I'm not saying I shouldn't say it's weird. It's just so different that I thought, yeah, it fits into this because I figure this book is kind of different from a lot of things that I've done, a lot of, other things. It's got some, the book is related in that genre of Tony Hillerman and Craig Johnson and just there's a genre of books that are built around the Native American culture and the reservation and police/crime issue. So um I, I just felt like that song fit into that category. Number 16 on the soundtrack, "Looking for Love" by Johnny Lee. And this is from 1980. And I saw that when I looked up from and found that it was 1980 that was released. And it was part of the Urban Cowboy soundtrack, which had gigantic hits on that album. And I guess that was released as a single from that album, the Urban Cowboy album. And the B-side for "Looking for Love" was "Lying Eyes" by the Eagles, which just blows my mind how how huge those songs were. So I just, but then at the same time, from the time frame, that was like a 1980 movie. And then I look at Trouble by Lindsey Buckingham from 1981. I just can't believe that was like 1 year later, and that's like my favorite song of all time. In 1981, I was 12 years old, and that's that impact on me in my life, I guess, and setting that mood. And again, putting that putting the music and establishing that mood for the music. Um, I can't tell you where these appear in the book. I should go search through that and see where Trouble appears in the book and how I use it. If someone was in trouble, I don't even know how it fits in there, but I mean, just the music and how the soundtracks work and how expensive it is for music, and that's one thing that when screenwriting, you're not supposed to actually put songs in there. Maybe a song that sounds like this because it is so expensive to get the rights to use any music in your in your media, whatever media you're doing. I heard, I think it was Mark Maron's podcast. I think he wrapped up his podcast. He retired from doing podcasting or took a hiatus at least. So it was going to be like his last podcast he was going to do. And he wanted to use some Taylor Swift song, and it was going to cost like, I think he used it actually, and it cost $40,000 for him to use it in his podcast just to get the rights to use it in that podcast. I'm not sure if that was for every every for evergreen, so that he could use it, that podcast was going to stay up and be published, for eternally on his podcast library, and so that he had the rights to use it forever. I'm not sure how that worked out, but $40,000 for doing it, and he spent that much money to do that. So that just seems crazy. So I understand that none of my stuff, and that's why I don't play the music, because you can't get the copyright, or if you use it and you get sued, maybe you have to, I don't know, maybe you face some liability with that, cost you some money. So I don't even want to mess with that. I'm kind of even uncomfortable talking about them. Maybe they're going to say, "Oh, you referenced my song," but I think it's safe to just be able to talk about them without actually humming the tune or singing the words or quoting the lyrics or anything like that. Hopefully we're okay on that. But anyway, uh, continuing with the soundtrack, I referenced this song called "Small Town" by John Cougar Mellencamp, or John Mellencamp, I think he was known at the time. And "Small Town," there was a more of a rock version, a pop rock version on his Rain on the Scarecrow album from 1985, but there's a slower acoustic version. The tempo is like, maybe a quarter tempo of what it was on the rock version, but it's from the Wild Night extended play, the EP from 1994. And that's features like a fiddle and stuff, and really slow, slow tempo that I really enjoy hearing that song, from that version of that song. So the number 18 on the soundtrack, I used "Minnesota Rouser," which is the fight song for University of Minnesota. And that song, that song is the oldest song on here. That's from 1909 when it was first published. And the "Minnesota Rouser" is actually the fight song for Siston Redmond also. So then I included that as a reference, because I think that's part of the series for Long Hollow talks about the importance of basketball in South Dakota. I mean, I think every state has its little window of basketball, and the state tournaments, and just building up to the state tournament and playing in the regional tournaments, and get your pep band there at the high school, trying to charge up your fans and stuff. And so Siston Redmond, they adopted the "Minnesota Rouser" as their fight song, and I always liked it, enjoyed it, so I put that on the soundtrack. And then I had a song on here. This is a repeat, but for some reason, I called it the title I put on the song, and I had a version of this in my iTunes library called "End of Innocence" by Enya, which is it's actually "Return to Innocence" by Enigma, which I already talked about from 1993. So for some reason I had that in here twice, but under different titles and different artists. But it turns out that's the same song, which made me really laugh when I found out I had done that. When I decided I was going to talk about this for the music portion, the music update of the podcast today. So, um, I guess I really like that weird. I shouldn't say I shouldn't classify it as weird. That very different tune from from Enigma, "Return to Innocence," and again, maybe later, some other time, I'll talk about the why I wanted to include that and the memory that I have with that song that has really stuck with me for for all time. Finally, we're down to the last two songs on the soundtrack, and so now with subtracting that song that repeat, so there's 20 songs on the soundtrack, and the second to last one is "Sea of Heartbreak" by Don Gibson from 1961. And for some reason, thought this was a Burt Bacharach song, but it was his writing partner Hal David wrote with Paul Hampton, "Sea of Heartbreak," and I knew the song from Don Gibson, and I always thought it was probably a good crossover hit, more than just a country song, probably in the pop charts too at the time. But I've become a really huge fan of Don Gibson, his country music and stuff that he wrote for others, and then he performed it himself. And as I've listened to Willie's Roadhouse, um, there's just been, I mean, he's got a ton of hits that I was just unfamiliar with until like the last 5 or 6 years, really listening to Willie's Roadhouse and getting some of that classic country music. And I mean, I'm just a huge fan of Don Gibson, and maybe we can talk about him some other time. There's some really good videos that he has, and there's like a little biography video that's on YouTube that I watched about his life and some of his struggles that he went through, and just some of his just unbelievable talent that he had, and produced all these, a lot of good songs over his career. And I'm my future writings, I guess, if I do have more soundtracks for my future writings, I can easily see Don Gibson's music appearing in a lot more of my stuff. And finally, that driving beat to end out the soundtrack, and I'm guessing it's the final musical reference I have in the book. I'm not even sure where it is again, but it's a song called "Ain't No Rest for the Wicked" by Cage the Elephant, and that was kind of a popular tune released in 2008, kind of just right before I got this book published, and that was kind of a hot hit. I think they were probably a new and on the scene band at the time, and kind of it's more of a driving beat song, kind of the bookend for "Seven Nation Army" by the White Stripes. And I mean, it's not great song, but I thought it kind of fit the mold for being the bookend for the soundtrack. And that's it. That's the music update for this podcast, and I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I did have some other stuff I wanted to share. I have a new a new section I'm going to be trotting out in the near future. I didn't feel I had a good, strong, abusive language topic for this podcast, so I was just going to say put that off till next time. And but I'm just going to wrap it. We've gone long today, and it's been enjoyable for me talking about this. And I've worn this hat way too long. It's too warm for one thing, and I'm I dread going outside and taking it off and seeing all the deteriorating insulation fly out, and I'm gonna have to go straight to the shower. after this grueling podcast and hat wearing time. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, and you know how it goes. You know how the sign off is. Stay positive. I mean, you stay positive, take action. It's up to you. You are the main character in your story. You decide. Be a glass half full character, enjoy it. Be assertive, be positive, be proactive. Those are my commands to you. I want you to be successful. And I think, again, that goes back to the basis of the whole podcast, and the Colonel and the Kid podcast is it's like life lessons. How does your family pass down the traditions and the positive reinforcement that's needed to be have that Kaizen in your life, constant improvement. So we don't say goodbye. We say see you next time. And I sign off with knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and you shall be given. So have a good week. Probably see you next week. If I have some time, maybe I can come back and do another chapter. But got a lot of stuff going on right now, and cross your fingers. Maybe we can get back together and get that next chapter 12. And I don't even know what the name of the title is for the Colonel and the Kid podcast and the memoir reading. So don't hold your breath that I'll be back again this week, but we'll be back. We'll be back with chapter 12, episode 12 coming up in the near future. So hang in there. And again, we don't say goodbye. We say, see you next time. Thanks for stopping by and listening, and give me a comment or any question you might have. Send it my way. So, all right. See you next time.